So for today's pillar strength and movement prep class, we are going to be doing our standard routine with a little bit of a warm-up here, a couple of exercises to start things off. We're going to have bird dogs, a lunge and twist with a reach up to the ceiling. And then we're going to do a new exercise that I haven't done with you guys yet, which is the hip cars. So working on the articulation and rotation of the hip as we're down in a quadruped position. Then we're going to go into our workout, which is going to have a 45 to 15 work rest ratio, starting with our pike to plank, then going into our push-ups, and then doing our IYTAs. Moving on to our prone OHP, glute bridges, Atg lunge, leg raises, and our plank. And then we're going to be going twice through that again. So starting back up at the top and finish things out with world's greatest stretch, a deep squat, and a figure four. So 3 warm-ups, 3 cool downs, and I believe 8 exercises in between the two to get our shoulders, our hips, our core, all working together, nice and strong, working on that pillar connection through the torso. Okay, so here we go. Let me make my mat look all nice for you guys. Perfect. All right, so starting with our first warm-up exercise, we're going to go down into our bird dogs. So getting our hands down to our knees, we're going to extend opposite hand and leg out, holding up at the top, sucking our belly button to spine, and gently lowering down, switching sides, getting opposite hand and foot out, balancing between the two, sucking belly button to spine, and lowering back down, extending out to the other side, slowly going back and forth, getting that stability, waking up the torso and the abs here, getting our hips, our shoulders, and our spine all working together as we do one more here. Okay. Next up, we're going to go into a kneeling lunge and twist. So getting one foot up, kneeling down. We're going to lunge forward and drop our hands down to the ground. From here, we're going to rotate up towards the ceiling, stretching those fingertips up towards the sky, coming down, dropping or coming back up. Ooh. Keeping our balance, we're going to come forward again, drop the hands down, and rotate up towards the ceiling. And extending back out, switching our legs, driving that knee out over the toe, dropping the hands down, and rotating up to the ceiling, extending our fingertips all the way up, rotating back down, and driving back. Coming forward, knee out over toe, dropping down, rotating up, and extending hand to ceiling. Coming back down and driving back. Good. Next, we're going to go back into our quadruped position, doing our hip cars. So the whole time we're going to try and keep our knees bent at a 90-degree here. So starting, we're going to come out wide to the side, keeping that 90-degree, bringing that knee up and around and back down. And here, we're going to extend the foot and the knee back, opening up to the side and closing down. And starting on the other side, opening out wide, rotating the knee around and coming down, then coming back up, opening out and coming back down. Good. We're going to do that again, one more on each side, opening out to the side, rotating around and coming down, coming back up and out, rotating around and down. Getting a nice big circle with the knee and relaxing. Good. Now from here, we are going to start our workout. So we're going to start with our pike to plank. So starting in a kneeling position like this, we're going to drive the hips up, pushing the heels down to the ground, getting a little stretch to the back of the leg, pressing our shoulders away from the ground through the hands. And we're going to swing those hips down, nice and level with the shoulders, bringing the chest over the hands, keeping ourselves supported in this push-up position and driving back. Getting those heels down, driving hands through the shoulders and swinging back forward, getting the chest over the hands, trying to keep those shoulders and those hips nice and level. Swinging back, getting our hips up into the air and bringing our hands over our chest, over the hands, nice and supported in that push-up position. One more, swinging back and hands, chest over the hands. Good. Now from here, we're going to go into our push-ups. So either bringing your knees down to the ground again or staying up in that position. We are going to keep those hands over the chest, lowering down, folding the elbows by the rib cage and coming back up. Nice, even pace. Trying to get a 2-second down, 2-second up. Down and up. Nice, even pace. Driving the ground away. Sucking that belly button up to spine. Driving through the hands. And rest. Good. Next up, we've got our IYTAs. So laying down on our stomach, getting our hands out in front. We're going to start with our hands extended out, thumbs pointed up, and we're going to drive the thumbs up to the ceiling, popping the chest up and coming down. Popping the hands out wide for our Ys. Coming up. Down to 90 for the Ts. Coming up. And down by the hips for our As. Coming back forward. For the Is. Then the Y. Ts. And A's. Good. One more each way. Trying to squeeze those shoulder blades together through the back. And relaxing. Good. Next up, we've got our prone overhead press. So we're going to start with our hands down by the shoulders. Picking our chest and hands up, extending the hands straight out in front and coming back down. Moving back and forth, keeping that chest off the ground, lowering down and popping back up again. Nice even pace. Pressing those hands out up overhead and coming back down. Returning the hands to right outside the chest, right by the shoulders, and coming back. Almost there. And relax. Good. Next up, we've got our glute bridges. So flipping over onto our back. We're going to get our feet flat on the floor, heels down, and pressing our hips through the heels. We're going to drive up to the ceiling, creating a nice flat line from shoulder for hips to knee, slowly lowering down, giving a slight tap on the bottom and popping straight back up. Driving those hips up towards the ceiling, holding up at the top, and slowly lowering down, giving a slight tap at the bottom. As soon as you feel those hips touch the ground, bring them straight back up. Not letting much rest here in between movements. Last one here, lowering down and tapping back up. Lowering back down. Good. All right. Getting up onto our feet, we're going to do our Atg Lunge. So working on our knee mobility and strength here. We're going to get into a split stance. From here, we're going to try dropping our hips straight down towards the ankles. So we're not driving out over the foot like this, and we're not lowering the hips straight down like that, but a mix of the two. So we're going to drive the knee out over the toe, drop the hips down, and we're trying to collapse that hamstring to our calf. So trying to, keep our balance, number one, and trying to close this gap in between my legs here, behind the knee, really closing that gap, driving down, driving that knee out over the toe, and driving straight back up through the foot. Good, couple more on this side. And switch sides, other foot forward. Bringing that knee straight out over the toe and driving back. Lowering those hips down towards the ankle, trying to collapse that gap behind the knee and coming back up. Couple more. And done. Good. Next up, we've got our leg raises. So getting back down onto our backs, we are going to extend our feet straight out, getting our hands underneath the hips. We're going to suck that belly button to spine, getting our back flat on the ground and bringing our legs up and lowering down slowly. Sweeping those feet up and lowering back down. Nice and easy. Staying in control of the movement the whole time. Nice even pace with the legs coming up. And in control on the way back down, keeping that back pulled into the ground, belly button sucked to spine. Almost done there. and finished. All right. Next up, we've got our last exercise of the circuit. We're going to go into our plank. So flipping over, forearms down. We're going to press through our elbows, popping up onto the toes, getting our hips up, nice and level with the shoulders, sucking our belly button to spine, keeping those hips up into the air. Focusing on our breath, trying to drive that weight away from the ground. Really trying to focus in and relax if we can. I know it seems like a tricky position to relax into because it can be so difficult. Almost there. And done. Good. All right, starting back up at the top, we've got our pike to planks. So getting into that kneeling quadruped position, we're going to extend the hips up into the air, pushing those heels into the ground, and swinging our chest over the hands, getting into that push-up plank position, and driving back. Pressing those heels into the ground, driving from the heel of the hand through the shoulder, swinging the chest over the hands, getting nice and sturdy, pressing the ground away through the shoulders, and driving back. Really pressing those heels into the ground, getting those hips up, and holding over our hands, nice and flat. And finishing out. Good. Next up, we've got our push-ups. So staying in that same position, either keeping your knees down or bringing the feet back, extending up. We're going to lower our chest down, keeping the elbows folded by the ribs and pressing away. Keeping a nice, even 2-2 count on our lower down and our drive back up. Sucking belly button to spine, keeping our core nice and tight. Nice even pace. Almost there. Few more seconds. And finished. Good. Next up, we have got our IYTAs. So lowering our chest down to the ground, extending our hands out in front, thumbs pointed to the ceiling. We're going to bring our hand and chest up, holding up and lowering down, extending out wide for our Ys, popping the hands up, holding up and lowering down. Bringing our hands down out wide for a T and popping up, holding up and lowering back down. Bringing our thumbs and hands down for an A, popping up, down by the hips and back down. Extending out in front again for our eyes, coming up, holding just for a sec at the top and coming down. Going out to about a 45, coming up for our Y, and back down. Coming out for our T's, popping up, squeezing those shoulder blades together, crushing that orange through the middle of the back, and lowering down, all the way to the hips for an A, and popping up, squeezing those shoulder blades, and lowering down. Good. Next up, we've got our prone OHP, which is overhead press. So getting our hands starting at the shoulder, we're gonna squeeze our shoulder blades together, getting our hands up off the ground, crushing that egg or squeezing that orange through the middle of the back. From here, we're extending the hands up overhead and coming back down, lowering our hands and popping back up again, extending those hands out over the head, reaching those fingertips all the way out and coming back down, pointing those elbows back down towards the toes. Moving at a nice even pace through our exercise here. We've just got a couple more that we're going to go through as we finish out the time. Extending out and coming back. And done. Good. Next up, we're going to go into our glute bridges. So flipping over onto our backs, getting our feet flat. We're going to drive through our heels to bring the hips up towards the ceiling, holding up at the top, driving our hips all the way up and lowering down after about a 5-second hold, feeling that top on the bottom and driving up again, squeezing those glutes, driving up. Nice and even. Slowly lowering down, feeling that top and popping back up again. Nice and slow. Dropping down and popping up. Lowering back down and getting up onto our feet. We're going to go into our Atg Lunge. So 1 foot forward into a split stance. We're going to lower those hips down towards the ankles, driving the knee out over the toe and driving back up, lowering down. Trying to get those hips down towards that ankle, driving that knee out past the toe and coming back up. And switching sides, getting 1 foot forward, driving that knee out past the toe and coming back up, getting our hips down to the ankle, driving through, coming back up, trying to keep that knee tracking over the second toe and back up. As we're finished out here, we're going to go back down to the ground for our leg raises. So laying flat on the ground, feet extended out. We're going to suck our belly button to our spine, pulling the lower back down into the ground, getting our hands slightly underneath the hips. We're going to extend the toes out and pull the legs straight up, slowly lowering down to the ground. Keeping that lower back pulled into the floor. If you're having trouble with these leg raises, you can always bend the knees and extend the feet out as you lower down, giving a little bit of a softer motion, or bringing the feet all the way up and above. Keeping nice tight core. And last one. Really make it count on the way down, nice and slow. And done. Good. Last part, we're going to do our plank, getting our forearms down to the ground. We're going to pop up onto the elbows and our toes, getting our hips nice and level with the shoulder, Sucking belly button, spine. Nice deep breaths. In and out. Holding that tight core. Driving the ground away. Nice and balanced. Almost there with our time. Keep holding, driving the ground away. And relax. Good, very good. Nice job finishing out the workout, getting through today's session. We're gonna finish off with a little bit of a cool down. Might just do 2 of the exercises here. But the first one we're gonna do is our world's greatest stretch. So we're gonna start by laying on our side, extending both hands out in front. We're gonna take our top leg and bend the knee and place the knee on the ground in front of the hips. From here, we're gonna bring our top hand reaching out forward and sweeping up into the air. At this point, when you're in the middle, you're gonna bring your other hand, grab the knee so that it stays down on the ground, and you're gonna drop your hand and shoulder down to the floor, twisting through the lower back and opening up the chest. Taking deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, trying to push that stretch further with each breath. And coming back up, twisting up and around. We're going to flip over and switch sides. So laying on your other side, we're going to extend the hands out front, bending the top knee and bringing it up in front of the hips. Our top hand is going to reach forward and up, using our other hand to hold that top knee down. We're going to continue to drop the hand and shoulder down to the floor. Breathing in and out. Twisting through the lower back, stretching through the hip, opening the chest. Getting that big twist. And twisting back up. We're gonna sit onto our hips, legs extended out front, and we're just gonna gently reach forward toward the toes, trying to get our lower back all on the same page here after those big twists. Stretching through the hamstrings and the lower spine. And since we are officially out of time, that will conclude our pillar strength and movement prep class. Thank you so much for coming in, stopping by, checking it out. Hope you had a great time. You can always check our other classes on SharePoint, and don't forget about our movement snack that we'll be hosting on April 28th. It'll be a quick 15-20 minute movement session, and we're doing it with the A Cafe, so they're going to have some really tasty, energizing recovery treats as well for you guys to have, and that will be at our San Rafael office in San Rafael. All right, have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you next week.